math equation symbolizes the economic conditions in countries outside of the United States, when conditions in your home country are so bad that you have to leave to find work. For example, in Mexico, the economy is so bad that the country was forced to sign onto the North America Free Trade Agreement. There is a lot to say about this and many explanations for Mexico's poverty. There are a few people who have benefited from these conditions, but the majority of the people are suffering. People are tired of it and have been fighting back, but little progress has been made. These kinds of conditions, extreme poverty for most and wealth for very few, exist in the nation state of virtually every immigrant group that is denied this human right in the United States. Come on, think about it. Once you cross the border into a place that denies you human rights, the United States, you become exploitable for your labor. That's B in the math equation. This process of dehumanization begins with categorizing you as illegals, aliens, criminals, or wetbacks, all of which differentiate you from those that are entitled to human rights. In other words, you become part of a group that is considered less than human. It is important that this group be separated from the humans so that they can be exploited without anyone feeling guilty about it. The really sick part of it is that this hatred is aimed at people who are coming here just to survive because they cannot survive in their home country. Think about it. Who really wants to leave their home country to go to another country where they don't speak the language and where they know they will be treated like dirt? People that are desperate. So this country's motto is punish the desperate people and reward the super rich who are primarily responsible for creating the unstable economic situation and unstable political situations that cause the desperation. Actually, yes, it is the country's motto, or at least that's what our history would suggest. We have just made some tweaks to it over time. Our economy depends on this exploitable labor, and it always has. When Europeans first discovered America, they used weapons of mass destruction. Think about it. To destroy the indigenous people and their culture. This allowed the Europeans to steal land and to claim the country for themselves. This is how the United States actually begins. This is the foundation of the house we currently live in as a country. The wealthiest of these settlers realized that they cannot develop the country by themselves, so they devised a plan to get the necessary labor to build the economy. Economics 101. If you want to increase profit, you have two choices. You can charge more for your product, or you can spend less making it, or both in the case of the oil industry and Nike. These pioneers of predatory capitalism decide on option 2, and they call this strategy slavery. This went on from the founding of the nation in 1776, but dates back to 1654 in North America to 1865. The 13th Amendment ending slavery presented an inconvenient bump in the road for these predatory capitalists. But they had built an economy that was dependent upon cheap, very cheap, like free, cheap labor. Slavery was the model, and still is, with some slight changes to get around the inconvenient little amendment. Since they can no longer go to countries and steal bodies, which they still do sometimes by the way, see, sex trafficking, they had to create situations which forced the labor to come here. NAFTA, remember part A of the math equation. Once you get those people here, you cannot have them treated as equal because then you have all those inconvenient and costly things like minimum wage, healthcare, work conditions, etc. All of which make it hard to get to part C of the math equation, maximum profit. It's basic math. It's predatory capitalism 101. You must have an exploitable labor force to have the kind of wealth that the super rich have in this country. There's no other way to have corporations making millions and millions of dollars without labor force. And there's no way that that labor force is so exploitable without making them less than human, like denying them their basic human rights like the freedom to movement. The main group that is denied this human right is the same group that is used as permanent cheap and exploitable labor so that the rich can get richer and the poor stay poor. This is really why people are denied their human rights. Think about it.